Good people YouTube, I'm watching it, and I'm here recording this after being in line at about 4 a.m. But even before I got there, I knew that I was gonna make one of two videos today. So first would be obviously me showing you the actual watch, would have been really awesome. The other would have been me not getting the watch and just talking about the experience of waiting in line. What was the situation like? What's their next steps and things like that. Little did I know that there was a potential third video to make, and that's about the complete logistical failure of the Omega Swatch MoonSwatch launch. And that does make me a little bit sad, just because I really do think that this MoonSwatch is a super fun breath of fresh air and it really deserved a smoother launch. So in this video, I'm gonna go over all that and my experience at the King of Prussia Mall, and just to end things off on a good note, I want to talk about the collaboration in general, in completely isolated from the launch fiasco. Oh, and it was awesome meeting and talking with you, Harris, Maureen, and Eric in the line. I mean, you guys definitely made the experience more fun. So yeah, thank you. And yeah, let's just get into it right now. So first off, it is kind of weird that they did release it in so few stores. I mean, so many areas didn't have access to it, like so many parts of the world, and also in the US, the entire middle section, the Midwest. I mean, the largest mall in the US, the Mall of America, got zero. But I mean, if they wanted to make the launch more exclusive and fun, I mean, fine, I guess. But the logical thought would be that, okay, since they are only sending watches to select locations, this means that Swatch is funneling in more watches to those few locations to try and satisfy the demand. I mean, that, yeah, right, yeah, right. But even then, my friend and I, we knew that there was a chance that maybe we wouldn't get one, even though we got there at 4 a.m. And I made the drive there knowing that we could show up and the line could be wrapped around the entire mall and we wouldn't get anything. Nothing in life is guaranteed, obviously. But then an announcement came from Swatch that they've limited it to one per customer, which I think was a great move, because obviously I wanted to get two, but you know, I respected Swatch for making the right decision, because to me that showed that they weren't afraid to accept the mistake and then to change the rules now that they're seeing the absolute insanity that was taking over the internet and the lines that were forming. So yeah, credit where credit's due. I mean, I respect that. So we waited and we were cautiously optimistic, but confident that we're gonna get at least a watch, because at this point we were about 150th in line, and that there's just no conceivable way that there would be less than 150 total watches for such a giant launch at the only location on the East Coast that's outside of New York City and Florida all the way down south. So then we got closer, and then we see a sign from the King of Prussia security saying that only about 35 to 50 people will be able to get a watch. So this seemed very weird, just because if they only had, let's say, 37 watches, I mean, they can't serve 50 people. So there's no range over there, especially since there's one per customer. So yeah, we were all confused, especially since it wasn't an official Swatch statement, and many of the security personnel over there weren't aware of this situation. So yeah, I mean, everyone just continued on waiting, but we just had no clue what was going on, and time kept ticking away, and everyone was getting just a little bit more agitated because we just didn't know whether or not we were completely wasting our time, but we just had to keep at it because we didn't know. Finally, only at opening time, a Swatch employee came out and bluntly told us that they only got 74 watches only. Like 74. Then they told us that if we didn't receive a ticket from them, that we just needed to leave the mall. Just like that. And then eventually they came back and they gave us pen and paper to write our information for them to contact us when they restocked. But yeah, with no regard for people's position in the line. But by this point already, a lot of people had left. And yeah, there must have been total, like, I don't know, like 500 plus people, something like that. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack here about the entire experience and Swatch's entire launch. But the main thing was that pretty much anyone who follows the watch world knew that this was going to be a giant release, and Swatch knew it too, because they're a giant company with big budgets, and they made a big deal about secretly inviting the big watch publications to Geneva to unveil the watch to them. So yeah, knowing all that, I was just shocked that Swatch, being the big international conglomerate that they are, they only sent 74 watches to the only store in between New York and Florida. And that actually means that there's way less than 10 of each variant, and that means there's even less of that for the really popular models. And on top of that, they originally said that there would be limit 2 per customer, which means that they actually thought in their heart of hearts that they were like, yeah, I think maybe only about 37 or so people will show up, and yeah, not many more than that. So yeah, we should be fine. Yeah, we'll be good. And in Dallas, which is the only store between San Francisco on the West Coast and Miami, all the way down south in the East Coast, they apparently got only 45 watches. And I mean, 45 watches for the entire American South. And they really ought to have provided at least like 200 to 400 watches per location, depending on the population, I guess, which isn't really that hard to do when considering that the watch in question is a plastic quartz watch. And if by chance there wasn't as much demand for it, then it wouldn't really matter, considering that this is not a limited piece, and maybe that new generation that Swatch has been saying that they want to bring in to the brand and to the family, maybe they could just walk in and buy some, which would be great. You know, some people said that, you know, Swatch probably didn't expect this sort of turnout. And yeah, I mean, the turnout was incredible, and it was awesome to see people, I mean, not flippers, just so excited about a plastic quartz watch. So yeah, I mean, they got more people than they expected. But did they really think that only a few hundred watches would be enough for the entire US outside of New York? So this, to me, means that they're either stupid for thinking that so few people would want this watch, or they had literally zero faith in this product, or they wanted to create even more scarcity than there would have already been for the watch, to the point where they were aggravating and alienating their biggest fans, waiting overnight and, you know, hours on end. I mean, they would have sold out of all their watches today without a doubt. There's no doubt about that. But they could have done so while maintaining a positive narrative and just better feelings. And finally, I think that they really messed up on the customer experience aspect of it, because this launch wasn't just the day that they decided to sell the watches. I mean, they could have done that online and we would have just moved on with their lives. But Swatch made this launch day an event by making it only available in select stores, and in turn making people camp out and wait in line together, you know, sharing the excitement and the experience. I mean, there was a buzz there. So obviously I'm not saying that I expected them to roll out the red carpet for each and every single one of us, but I don't think it's too much to ask for just clear information about the current situation and letting us know a bit earlier than the opening time that they only had 74 watches. So yeah, I think one of the New York stores did that, and they let them know at like 5:30 a.m., which is better. And I mean, it's just more respectful of everyone's time and energy, including the people at Swatch. And then I think that it would have been great if they actually had a process to collect people's information digitally in the order we were waiting, so we didn't all feel that we were just waiting around in vain. I mean, pen and paper is great in general, but yeah, I mean, putting that stuff down, they could easily lose those slips, and they don't know the order of the slips either, and they don't have to worry about not being able to read bad handwriting and stuff like that. And maybe they heard about the violence that just about erupted in London, and maybe they're scared of delivering bad news, which, I mean, I totally get, because the stuff that happened over there is just crazy and also unbelievably stupid. But at the same time, sitting there outside of a mall in King of Prussia, I mean, we were just chilling and sitting, waiting, and yeah, there wasn't any sort of rowdiness or an air of unrest and violence. So, I mean, basically, it would have been nice, and it would have been really easy for everyone had they just made people feel like their time wasn't a complete waste, and that, you know, Swatch acknowledges and appreciates it. Okay, so changing gears a little bit to the watch itself and the collaboration itself. There are a lot of opinions about this collaboration, but I happen to be amongst those who think that this is an absolutely amazing idea. And I'm just so thankful that they made something like this, because in the end, I mean, the watch hobby is all about having fun and wearing watches that make you happy. So Swatch in many ways absolutely embodies that ethos, and bringing in a horological icon is also so perfect because it just shows me that these big players can actually have fun. I mean, the watch world just sometimes just gets way too serious. So for those of you who think that this is just a strange collaboration, or think that's an ugly watch, then yeah, by all means, that's fair enough, because not everyone is gonna like the look of these watches, because as it turns out, you know, people have preferences and opinions. But for those who think that this is somehow devaluing Omega and the Speedmaster, I mean, I couldn't disagree more, because in the end, Omega watches and the Speedmaster have an intrinsic value. Like, if you take off the logo from an Omega, it's still a extremely well made and unique watch, as opposed to, like, if you take the logo off the Omega Swatch, MoonSwatch, it's a Swatch in the end. Yeah, and also on top of that, people aren't going to be cross-shopping the MoonSwatch and the Speedmaster, because I mean, they're just in two different worlds when it comes to quality, experience, and obviously the price. And actually, in a way, the act of thinking that the Speedmaster has been devalued is actually actively devaluing the watch itself, because that's just implying that there is no value to the Speedmaster other than the image and status. Of course, if Omega themselves released a full-on Omega Quartz Speedy for like $500 or something like that, then I mean, I would totally get the argument of, you know, that Omega is being devalued and stuff like that, because then at that point you can get a full-on Omega for $500. But the MoonSwatch has Swatch right on there, and it's a one-off collaboration in the end. And I mean, well, as far as we know, I mean, I'm just hoping that they don't release a new Omega Swatch like every single quarter. So when the hype dies down and once normal people can walk in and buy one, I think that this can be a glorious opportunity to experience one of the most iconic watches. And, you know, let's be real, I mean, not everyone is gonna want to buy a Speedmaster that costs thousands of dollars. I mean, so let's say a budding watch nut or just some random person just watches Apollo 13 or the Atom Project for that matter. I mean, they might think that, you know, wow, that's pretty cool, I want to watch like that. But then after looking it up, they're like, yeah, I'm not going to spend $7,000 on it right now. But now they might find the MoonSwatch, and then they might think, like, it was like, hey, this is pretty cool, and it's a $260, so I think I might be able to swing it. And then from there, I'd like to think that they'll enjoy the experience and then look into the world of Swatch and Omega. And then from there, maybe they'll just fully dive into the world of watches completely. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the end goal here. I just want as many people to enjoy this watch world, because it's an awesome world. And even if they don't get a full-on Speedmaster in the end, I think that piquing their curiosity about watches makes this Omega Swatch, MoonSwatch, more than worth it. So there you have it. Yeah, I have a lot more to say about everything that's been happening these past few days. And yeah, I'll be trying to get a MoonSwatch in for the channel, but in the meantime, go ahead and keep on commenting, discussing whatever you're doing down in the comments, as you are probably already doing. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, then go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe button if you want to see more, because I will have Watches and Wonders releases on the channel later on. And yeah, so until the next video, good day.